Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Precious Metals Summit is brought to you by New Core Gold.
G3 Goldfields is one of the most obvious M&A candidates in the gold space, but when will it happen? Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining with me, Paul Harris, at the 2025 Precious Metal Summit here in Beaver Creek in Colorado. Joining me today to talk about this is Daniel Noone, CEO of G3 Goldfields. Daniel, welcome back to Kitco.
That's good to be back, Paul.
At Oko in Guyana, you've got a resource of more than 3 million ounces. You're right next door to G Mining Ventures and its Oko West Mine. Drilling continues. What is the exploration plan and how are you looking to augment that 3 million ounces?
Okay, so we put out the MRE in March, which was 3 at 3. And basically, we also announced a discovery up at New Oko, 9 kilometres to the north of the resource which we put out. We've been drilling that since March. We have put a cut-off date as August 31, 2 weeks ago, on the drilling there for an updated MRE. And so the plan is to put out an updated MRE on that, the resource will go down to an open pittable level, probably 200 metres, and include that in a new MRE and do a PEA on the back of that so we can start talking about the economic numbers here. Now, with that, the government just issued us prospecting licences for the Gani and Oko claims, which are the claims which contain the resource. So that really has opened up the process to move towards permitting of a mine there. So the next phase there is to put in a preliminary mine design and go to the second phase where you do the water bores. Before another 12 months you can apply for a mining licence. So that clock is ticking. Once we've got those PLs, you have 3 years plus 2 to turn into a large-scale mining licence. So we have to get on with that as well. And so focusing on exploration, it is the soil targets, soil anomalies between Oko Main Zone and the new discovery, and plus up to what we call Ramnarine East, a series of shear zones which we are drilling, looking for near-surface mineralisation. Because the goal here is to make the scale of what can be built tonnes a day bigger, as opposed to drilling deeper and adding mine life. So that's really the focus of the company at the moment.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, so let me sort of try and walk through those one by one. The new Oko discovery, that will be in the updated resource. What's that potentially looking like in terms of ounces that will add to that sort of existing 3 million?
Okay, so it's strike length of about 700 metres, 35 metres thick, going about on average a gram. So down to 200 metres, we think you're looking somewhere 300 to 500,000 ounces. And that's all we get in up to August 31. We think it still goes down to like 400, 500 metres, but for the updated resource, we're targeting probably 3.5 million ounces and maybe a little bit more. But more importantly is how many tonnes a day we can get out of that. We think we can add probably another 2,000 to 3,000 tonnes a day that you can get out of that to go with what we think will be about 8,000 tonnes a day out of the Oko Gani area. So getting it up around 10,000 tonnes a day.
Okay. In terms of timing, when do you anticipate being able to release that resource update, and consequently, when for the updated PEA?
We plan to do them at the same time. We've done most of the work for the PEA, and really it's the updated MRE which needs to come in. So we think by the end of October, we should have that out, all things going to plan.
Okay, and that fits in with a broader corporate aim, which the last time we spoke, you mentioned the company has plans to undertake a formal sales process by the year end. So it sounds like you want to get these out before kicking off that process. Can you give me an update on what the plan is with that formal process? Who's helping you with that? Who's going to run that?
Okay, so we plan in the fourth quarter to start that process. So to that end, we have 2 advisors, co-advisors. We have Coremark, and we just recently engaged Canaccord to run that process. And that entails bringing companies under NDAs, bringing them into a data room. And so all that will kick off in the fourth quarter. And really at the start of the fourth quarter, because all that information that's going into the MRE and PEA will already be here. So the companies can do their own numbers and probably come up with their number at the same time we do. And so that will run through the fourth quarter.
It's an interesting moment of time to be putting out a resource update and a PEA because the gold price is today, $3,650 per ounce. What are your thoughts on the gold price that you're going to use in that update and that resource?
Because when we did an internal scoping study in April, we used 1950 for the mine design, and then we used 2,500 as the economic number. That's a good question. I'll have to ask Mike on who's doing the resource what they'll do. But I think we'll still stick at 2,500. I think our neighbours use that number in their feasibility study. So if you're looking at an apples-to-apples situation, we'd like to put ourselves in a comparative frame.
Well, that would make sense. You're also, as you're preparing to sell G3 Goldfields, you're also planning to spin out some of the other concessions, some of the other properties you have in Guyana into G3 Goldfields. What's the timing on that looking like?
Well, we will have a AGM on the 27th of November, and that's when shareholders will get to vote for that again, because we voted in January, but that paperwork went dead on us. So November 27 will be the vote. In reality, you could have it out trading this year, but coming into Christmas, it's probably not going to happen. So it'll probably be January next year, it'll come out trading. And so that'll be 1 share of G3 for every 2 shares of G2 that you have. We plan for it to come out with at least $10 million in the bank so that you don't get diluted in the first year. And hopefully do G2 all over again.
Well, January is usually a better month for gold stocks and gold juniors, so that would seem to be a better moment of time to launch G3. Now, at the corporate level, your stock is up 80% over the past year, now got a market capitalisation of about 850 million Canadian dollars. A bit of a wrinkle perhaps recently as AngloGold Ashanti sold its stake. They sold their strategic investment in you. Any idea why they did that?
Well, I'm not privy to their boardroom meetings, but they obviously bought Sakari in Africa and filled that production gap that they had. They say they're focusing on building the Bullfrog in Nevada. And so obviously within their strategic plans, we went down the rung on that, right? And technically they say they need an asset which is 3.8 million ounces, can do 308,000 ounces a year. I think they probably jumped a little bit too soon, but they left well, didn't smash the furniture, and we got that placed with 2 strong hands out of Europe. So that has opened up the field for other corporates to come in and potentially buy the company, because when Anglo was there, everyone saw themselves as being potentially just a stalking horse for Anglo, who already had 15%. So I think it's worked out well. For us, it was a good relationship. They bought in at 90 cents when we were 67. They played again at $1.45, so they've made money. They gave us validation when they came in, for sure. And at the end of the day, they've left, and we now have a clear field for M&A.
I think that's an important point, because having a strategic investor is obviously a very good thing, but it often acts as a deal blocker for somebody else. And with AngloGold exiting, that, as you say, leaves the field clear for perhaps other parties to express an interest.
Absolutely, and we certainly have had a lot more interest since Anglo left the room.
Well, we're at an investment event here, a mining investment event here. Has that perhaps translated into new and unexpected sources of meetings, people that want to meet with you and get to understand who you are and what the project is?
Absolutely. So we have met a number of corporates here who we hadn't even thought about previously. And obviously there's other ones who had been there before Anglo came in who have come back. So yeah, it's definitely... As a potential asset to go in production, there's not that many out there, and this is a good standalone asset. And so definitely we're having a lot of meetings around that topic.
Now, a moment ago you mentioned that with the new Oko discovery, that potentially gives you the opportunity to add 2,000 to 3,000 tonnes per day of throughput to the existing concept of 8,000 tonnes per day. So in terms of the PA, what sort of production figure are you contemplating? We
think it'll fall, and it's not 43-101 compliant, but on the back of an envelope, somewhere between 300 and 350,000 ounces per annum over about a 10-year mine life. So, and that's a good number, and that's because of the geometry of these deposits, and they're long and linear, and it'll be 3 separate pits. So, yeah, it looks actually pretty good.
Sounds it. Okay. Now, while we're on the subject of M&A, let's get away from you and let's get away from Guyana. When you look at the sector as a whole, the gold price is very high. There's a lot of energy. It seems that companies are now getting permission from their shareholders to grow again. With the divestment of Newmont's mines last year, that created a new swathe of mid-tier gold producers, but they're all pretty much single asset gold producers without a pipeline. So presumably there's a lot of companies out there looking to build pipeline, which presumably will mean a lot of activity coming in the M&A. What are your thoughts? What are you seeing in the space?
Yeah, well, we think that's we fit a lot of companies in that regard. Obviously, it extends our timeline on our sale, but our shareholders, one, don't want to get out of gold, happy to be in Guyana. They really just want to see the asset developed into something which is a mine, and an already operating mining company has a lower cost of capital than we will ever have as an exploration company. So all those companies, single asset companies, look good to us. And I think I could probably name 5 of them, and I would say we look we should look very good to all of them, because Guyana now is considered to be a good jurisdiction for investment and development and a quick timeline. So,
as you move towards that sale process, how is your thinking evolving in terms of, and what are you being advised in terms of a cash or a stock or a combined deal? Because, as you say, a lot of investors want to stay in gold, they want to remain exposure, so maybe having stock rather than cash is a good thing.
Yeah, and that's the good question. And for shareholders, I think cash is always cash. You can always go and buy the stock later. But by the same token, if you do the right deal with a company, both stocks will go up. And so, my preference personally would be to retain stock. Other people may need cash. Maybe it's a cash and stock deal. But our bankers will obviously advise us on that. Our shareholders will talk to us about that. But I think, either way, it can be all cash, it can be all shares, it can be a mix. But and everything's open.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Guyana is increasingly seen as a good jurisdiction for mining. The country just has a presidential election with President Irfan Ali winning a second 5-year term. He's quarterbacked an expansion of the resource sector, particularly in the oil and gas sector. So what do you see for the next 5 years in terms of policies towards the resource sector and mining specifically?
I think more of the same. I mean, they've been a steady hand on the tiller for a long time, and they've always, fair deals, they stick by them, they don't renegotiate them. They're very positive as far as, encouraging mining companies to get going. The government does have a strong process and good bureaucracy, and so they never put up, hurdles on you that are unreasonable. I mean, there's processes, you have to do your environmental, you have to tick all the boxes, but they're very supportive, and we think more of the same.
Okay. With the oil and gas bonanza the government is getting, I understand it's starting to invest a lot in infrastructure and the development of the country. Now, the mining projects tend to be inland, where areas with infrastructure poor, shall we say. To what extent is the government planning to invest in infrastructure, roads and other things, power lines, etc., that mining development will need inland?
I think historically the government has considered it's up to us to do that. Certainly when we built Aurora, it was up to us to build the road. We generated power on site. And I think generally they are more laissez-faire capitalism than socialist government. So I think in general, I think you'll see the infrastructure being developed by the companies themselves. Obviously that main road over to Brazil's a government job. But in general, I think we'd like them to maybe spend some more money on building better roads. But I'm not sure that's top of the list of many things they have to do at the moment, right?
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in our conversation, and maybe we can end by highlight some of the key catalysts over the next 12 months that our listeners and viewers should watch out for.
So, first up, the updated MRE and PEA in the fourth quarter, the starting of the process to do M&A in the fourth quarter, the spin out of G3. So there'll be 30,000 approximately acres remain in G2. The other 50,000 acres we have will go into G3, and that contains the historic Peters, Aramu and Waviri mines. So it's rinse and repeat, we think. And they're really the key four things which are going to happen over the next 4 months. So there's a lot to go on.
It's going to be a busy and exciting 4 months for you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, Daniel Noone, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Paul.
And we have a lot more to come from the 2025 Precious Metals Summit here in Beaver Creek in Colorado. So stay tuned and hit that subscribe button. I'm Paul Harris, and this is Kitco Mining.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Precious Metals Summit is brought to you by New Core Gold.